What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about a movie that is a little bit older now, but I wanted to check out because a lot of people were talking about this on the internet and talking about how strange and bizarre of a concept it was. And as most of you out there know who have been following me for a while, strange and bizarre is right up my alley. I love weird movies, I love uncomfortable movies. And as soon as I read the premise for this film, I was like, yeah, I 100% have to check this movie out. And the film I'm going to be discussing with you today is Good Boy. Good Boy is directed by Vilhar Boe. Christian, a millionaire heir, meets Sigrid, a young student on a dating app. They hit it off quickly, but there's only one problem. Christian lives with Frank, a man who dresses up and constantly acts like a dog. So that premise is absolutely wild, and I was really excited to watch this movie. And the film was incredibly fascinating and really well done up until the last 20 minutes, where I feel like it completely fumbles its own idea. It's rushed, it's cliche, and it kind of ruined the entire experience for me. I really hated the way this movie ended. It felt really rushed, and where it started to dive into a really interesting idea, and the movie kind of like shifts everything you think you know at about the midway point, and then it just like goes in the most predictable and annoying direction. And like by the end of the film, I'm like, okay, you lost me. But I'm going to talk about the movie as a whole and break it down for you today. So at the beginning of the film, we are introduced to Christian, and we see him at home. He is incredibly wealthy. He's the child of a wealthy family. We see him preparing his meal, and he puts some food in a dog bowl, and we see a person dressed in a dog costume crawl out into the kitchen and eat the food out of the bowl. And he acts like it's completely and totally normal. And we see him on dating apps, and he's living his life pretty solitarily until he matches with Sigrid, and the two of them go out for drinks and they hit it off. Sigrid goes back home with him. They end up sleeping together, and she really likes him a lot. She sees his dog, Frank, and is completely startled by it, confronts him about it, and he acts totally nonchalant about the whole situation. He's like, yeah, this is just my life. This is who he is, blah, blah, blah. And so she ends up leaving and talking to her friend about it, and her friend's like, you know, he's a multimillionaire, right? Like, you know what you're passing up on. She's like, this is a different era. People are into all kinds of different things. If it's not hurting anyone, I don't see what the problem is with it. And so she thinks about it a little bit, ends up seeing him again, and Christian explains that him and Frank were friends when they were growing up, and that he went through some pretty severe bullying and dealt with some pretty harsh issues. And this is just what he wants in his life. He wants to be treated like a dog. He wants to live this existence. And because of how bad he felt like he could give him this life he wanted because he really didn't have anything else. And so Sigrid feels kind of bad about it and ends up just dating him, and they go through their day-to-day life until one day Christian asks Sigrid if she wants to take a trip to a cabin with him in the middle of nowhere with Frank. And the two of them go to the cabin together, and she slowly starts to find out not everything is what it seems. So, as I said, really cool concept, and I liked the execution a lot up until the very end. I think the performances here are all pretty solid. I thought that the two lead actors have really great chemistry. They're very believable early on, and I think they do a great job at adding tension to the situation. There's so many moments where you, as a viewer, are uncertain as to what's going to happen next, and because of the way that the actors deliver dialogue and their body language, it's really easy to stay invested and wonder what direction it's going to go into next. It's shot okay. I mean, this movie clearly did not have a very large budget. I really liked the dog costume. It had a very strange look to it, to where when you're staring at it, it's like incredibly uncomfortable after a while, especially like the way the mouth moves. Like, it's just it's really disturbing. And even in the moments where they're kind of ignoring it, it's in the back of your head like, okay, this is a really strange situation. But throughout the film, you're questioning like, what's going on in the guy's head that's in the costume? Like, what is he dealing with? And when there's implications put out to you that like he was bullied when he was younger and things that he was going through, you start to wonder what direction the movie is going to go into. And then you start to think about Christian's psyche and what has put him in this situation, and is what has driven him to believe that this situation is all fine and normal, and that there's nothing strange strange about it, and that he can go through his day-to-day life. And then Sigrid, who initially is like put off by it, but then is like willing to ignore it in hopes that like this relationship can thrive despite this really strange circumstance. And I like diving in to the psyche of all of these characters, but then something happens when they leave for the trip that kind of shakes everything up. And I really liked the way they introduced it. And I'm like, okay, this could go in a really interesting direction. And they do a really nice job building up the tension. But once stuff is revealed and things start blowing up in the third act, it goes in a direction that you would 100% expect. It's not surprising, it's not shocking, it's just really the exact way that I thought that it was going to play out. And they incorporate something in one of the last shots that's just like head scratchingly strange. You're like, why did they put this in the movie? What did they think? Did they think they were going to get like a shock reaction out of the audience? I'm not 100% sure why they did that, but it just became so incredibly frustrating because the entire time I was watching it, I just kept thinking about, okay, if you would have gone a completely different direction and wrapped this up in a way that was way more satisfying, I would have come away thinking that the film was overall successful. But instead, the movie felt like a failure to me because of how much it fumbled the ending. It was like build up so well for the first 45 minutes and then just fumbled its execution in the end. Like the director had a really great idea and then just didn't know how to get to the end with it. And that was really disappointing because, like I said, I think the psychology behind this is really interesting and what would drive people to be in this situation. But towards the end, it just becomes really formulaic and really irritating. And that's unfortunate because, like I said, really thought there was something great here. It just left me really bummed in the end. So have you seen Good Boy? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was incredibly disappointing. I had high hopes for it, but the ending completely and totally fumbled its execution. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, it helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.